Minister, mandatory hotel quarantine and mandatory PCR testing are and were essential tools to prevent the importation of new strains of the virus and existing strains of the virus. The public health advice on both has been quite clear now for the best part of a year. As my colleague Deputy O'Rourke mentioned earlier, it was something that the government came late to the table with, despite the fact that not only the public health experts in government and those who were advising government, but those outside of government were also asking the government to move much quicker in this area. Nobody wants any public health measures to be in place any longer than they are necessary. As we see the vaccine being rolled out, and with the more progressive rollout the vaccine is, and the faster and more efficient the vaccine rollout has become and hopefully will continue to be over the next while, does present us opportunities to start looking at easing restrictions. And we're seeing that already in different sectors. And of course we have to plan now for a safe reopening of aviation travel and of course the wider tourist potential as well. What we don't want to see is a situation where some parts of Europe are open for business in terms of tourism, and then we in this state are left behind and are not prepared. So I think it is prudent that we look at this as a European-wide initiative, but we also have to keep our autonomy in relation to decisions that we need to make to protect this state against new variants and to ensure that the restrictions which are beginning to be eased and will continue to be eased over the next number of weeks as we go into June and indeed July, and further easing of restrictions will happen, they have to be jealously protected and jealously guarded, because we can't take any chances and do anything that will put at risk those reopenings in the time ahead. I think they have to be our #1 priority, because it means so much to people that there's some level of normality returning. All the businesses that opened last week, all the people who went back to work over a long time period, been out of work, certainly will want that to be continued. And all of the restrictions that we ease, we very much hope that that's it and that we won't see any reversal or going back to any of those restrictions being in place again. So in that context, we're having a debate on international travel. I don't believe that mandatory quarantine, Minister, should be in place for a second or a minute longer than is necessary. I welcome, and my party supported, the EU-wide COVID certificate at European Union level. It makes sense to have a single app that pulls together all of the COVID-related testing and the vaccine for individuals. I also welcome that this will be in both digital and paper format. I think that's important as well. I'm taking it that it will be up to each member state to then decide, well, what element of either testing or the vaccine will be required to prevent people from having to quarantine in a hotel or any other measures in place, and it remains to be seen how that's going to work out in this state and what the government will do. But what is certain is that whatever happens, the aviation sector is going to continue to be deeply affected in the months and indeed I would imagine over the next number of years, Minister. So it is a sector that does need to be supported. Obviously that means continuing to support airlines to make sure that they stay afloat, but really it has to be about protecting jobs. And what I would say to you, Minister, is that when funding has been made available, taxpayers' money, which it needs to be to shore up and protect this sector and the aviation sector and to shore up airlines, the quid pro quo has to be that those airlines protect jobs, and we don't on the one hand see money going in, taxpayers' money to shore them up, but then we see major job losses on the other hand. That's not a quid pro quo, and that it wouldn't be acting in the best interests of the people of this state.